March 20th through 23rd is Level Up Week. We are offering over 20 webinars focused on helping you level up totally for free. We have guests like Valerie Harris talking about how to grow your practice with interns. We have speakers from the Speaker Lab who are going to talk with you about getting public speaking gigs, as well as experts on how to get a TEDx talk and every single phase of practice. We're talking about 5 simple marketing techniques you have to master, how to add virtual assistants to your practice, and we have Profit First professionals coming in to teach you how to grow your money. Whether you're starting a practice, growing a group practice, or expanding to do multiple streams of incomes, Level Up Week is for you. Mark your calendars, March 20th through 23rd, and see all of the webinars that you can register for over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/level up. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 849. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we, every week, several times a week, we are talking private practice, we're talking marketing, business, keeping the heart in your practice, all those things. And this month, we've specifically been diving into all around how to start a private practice. How do you start a solo practice? We're talking to people that are in the earlier stages of a solo practice. Some folks have done the startup several times. Like in our last episode just 2 days ago, Benita talked about starting a new practice 3 times when she moved because her husband's in the military. So she got really good at starting practices, but was only 2 years into her current practice. Or we were talking about some systems that work in starting a practice. So just conversations with people that I like that are starting solo practices and rocking that out. And today we have Brandon Shurn, who I'm so excited to chat with. He's been a member in our communities. He shows up for himself. And Brandon, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, every time that you show up in a meeting or one of our trainings, I don't know why, I just get a big smile. I'm like, Brandon's here. I'm so excited he's here. So when I saw you on my calendar today, I was pretty dang excited. I knew my day would be a good day.
That's you too generous. I will just say that for me, it's about being uncomfortable, and so even putting myself on the schedule to get podcast to be interviewed was uncomfortable for me because you've been in this space, and so I kind of look up to you in terms of mentorship, and you've been where I want to be. And so having this opportunity for me, it's like I have to play full out. I have to. It's a must.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. And I mean, there's things that for me kind of make me crap my pants too. Like, when Simon Sinek, a year ago asked me to start doing some speaking for him, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have followed Simon for years. And so it's just good to push yourself into those times. And it reminds me of, who was it? It was a business writer. He was talking about how Al Gore, he was working for as an intern, and said, who has speech writing experience? And this guy raised his hand, and he had no speech writing experience, but no one else raised their hand. And he's like, I got to learn to be a speech writer. And he became Al Gore's speech writer because he raised his hand. And so,
wow,
that's so awesome. Well, anyway, let's talk solo practice. Tell us about your practice, like just the kind of brief 2-sentence overview. Tell us a little bit about your life outside of practice so people kind of know who you are outside of a business owner. And then we'll dig into what launching a solo practice has been like for you.
Okay. So, I have Empower Me Holistic Counseling. Right now it's virtual, and I specialize really in working with males who've experienced a traumatic event in their life. Outside of the practice, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I just recently completed my dissertation, so a doctorate, doctoral graduate. So a lot of things happening outside of life, outside of practice for me. But a husband and a father is really, and I'm a reader too. I love reading. So,
what are you reading right now?
I just finished Uncommon Sense Teaching, and it talks about the neuroscience behind behind the brain and how the brain learns and how to structure teaching for students to be able to learn and grab the material. And so also I'm a full-time professor as well. So the private practice right now is a it's a side thing for me that I want to expand. But having a family, I got to make sure that there's income coming in. So it gives me the ability to play around with pricing and deciding not to take insurance. And so that was for me, having that security, so to speak, was really beneficial.
Wow. So on top of a doctoral program, on top of being a professor, on top of being a husband and a dad, you launch a side gig counseling practice too.
Yeah. How many hours in a day do we have?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to start with from a energy and time standpoint. How did you figure out how to make time for a side gig counseling practice?
It's it was I determined that I wanted to be successful in this space. And so it requires me to lose a little sleep and structure my life in such a way that you know s- I'm available. So a lot of the times, the mental health counseling is one of those kind of late afternoon early evening things. And so becoming a professor allowed me to have that time free so that I could. And so I'm not taking leave, and I'm not showing up for other things that I might have. And because of that, when I'm done working, even with seeing clients, that's family time, and that's time with my wife. And so I had to be really strategic in how I planned it. And I fumbled a lot on the way to where I'm at now, but it was that's really what I did. I said, you know what? I need to structure this so that I'm giving my best in all of these areas. But when I unplug and I'm done teaching, or I'm done grading, or I'm done working with clients, that time is for me and for family.
Mm. And I know that even just having just one business, let alone all the things that you're doing, there's always things to do. Like the work is never done. Do you have specific habits or boundaries where it's like after this time, I never check email, or this is specific family time, and we're going to put our phones on silent? Or do you have any habits or things like that that help you set those boundaries around all the different things that you're working on?
I do. So on my work, my professor related email, I have a time where it goes off, where I'm in do not disturb. Um, a lot of the times, for me personally, I get up early in the morning, so I get up around 5 o'clock, and that's when I work out. That's when I journal. That's when I take time to center and meditate and do all of those things. And so it's a lot of me time. That's also when I do a lot of reading as well, before the ecosystem of my world starts. And so I get a few hours in personally. And so then I know that when I'm invested in these other areas, I've also invested in myself.
Mhm. Now, what time do you go to bed to be getting up that early?
Mostly around between 10 and 11. And that's Monday through Thursday. So I read Thursday is the new Friday. So
Mhm.
I began to structure my life. That was another thing I did. I said, okay, I want to not have to work on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So and having a conversation with my wife, she said, we are okay, and I'm okay with you not really being present or available while you're doing all of these things, getting your business launched and all of that Monday through Thursday, as long as Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is for us. And so on
Mhm.
those days, I do nothing. I don't have my phone. I walk around with it or any of that stuff. I'm on do not disturb for most of the day.
That's awesome. Well, I think that that's something that I've heard with partners, how it's like, even when you're here, you're not here. You're thinking about the business. We're talking about the business. You're excited about it because when you're starting a private practice, it can be really exciting. And it can also be for the partner of the person launching it. Like, I want Brandon to be Brandon, not to be talking about his business and brainstorming. And like, I want you to be here. So that's so great that you guys have found a rhythm for your family as to what works during what could be a really busy time where you feel disconnected from one another.
Yeah, and it was really I'm fortunate in that my wife was in the military, and so she just retired like a year and a half ago. But she was really understanding because there was a lot of giving and a lot of moving and things like that. So a lot of what I'm doing now, I have the ability to do it because we are stationary, and I know that we're not. If we move, it's because we want to, not because we have to. And it allows me the freedom and the flexibility to just go ahead and launch. And so that's what I did.
Are you in solo practice and wondering how to get things going, what marketing techniques to do, and what the order is that you should get things done? Maybe you want to start a group practice because you're busting at the seams, but you have no idea when is the right time. Or maybe you want a 7-figure, multiple location practice that you can grow. Also, maybe you're even growing beyond that in building e-courses, podcasts, membership communities. No matter what phase of practice you are in, we have something for you at Level Up Week. Level Up Week is March 20th through 23rd, 2023. Again, that's March 20th through 23rd. We have over 20 webinars that are totally free. We have things like how to get a TEDx talk, how to get more public speaking gigs, how to use profit first in your private practice, how to pay yourself, starting a solo practice panel where we have 5 successful solo practitioners. We also have essential systems you have to have, how to add virtual assistants, how to add multiple streams of income, supersizing your practice to over 50 clinicians, and the 5 simple marketing techniques every practice has to master. No matter your phase of practice, it could be that moment that you just said to yourself, I need to leave my full-time job and start a practice, all the way up through having a thriving group practice and you are launching something that's going to go international. We have several webinars for you. So head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/level up to see which webinar is the best fit for your time and your phase of practice. And if you want the recordings, just register for the ones that you want, and we will send you those recordings totally free of charge. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/level up. Practiceofthepractice.com/level up. So take us through specifically when you're launching a side gig counseling practice that eventually you may want to grow into something bigger. How would you say the mentality is different when it's a side gig and you're keeping your professorship and, for now that it's not taking over as a full-time business? Like, how would you say you thought through it differently than someone that knows they want to be full-time in the next 3 months or so?
Probably not that much different. For me, the side being a side gig, again, it's something that I know you talked about a lot, and it's investing the amount of hours that you want to work those hours on the business. And so I'm doing content creation. I'm doing things like that with the hours that I have structured that would typically be client hours, finding creative ways to market and network within the community, and specifically in my area. So to me, it's not much of a difference because I do put that energy into it, like showing up and next level practice and taking part of a lot of events that's going on there. The only thing for me with the professorship is it just allows me to say, I know for a fact I don't want to take insurance. And if it takes me a minute to gain that traction, to really drive in and start building and launching to where the phone is ringing off the hook, I'm okay with that because I don't want to take insurance. Insurance is just a pain in the neck. So
yeah, I think that's such a good point. I think that when you have it as a side gig, you can take some of those risks of maybe having your price be a little bit higher than someone that just needs to get full. You can test things out because you have that reliable income coming in through your full-time job. And to say, no, I don't want to take insurance. I want to have this price point. And then to know, okay, yeah, I have 5 people or I have 10 people or I have 2 people, whatever it is that is the number that you're at and then where you're headed. You can take those risks differently when you know that it's a side gig for right now that may grow into something bigger.
Oh, it's definitely going to grow into something bigger. I have a plan. I've sketched it out in terms of where I want it to be. I want to, before the end of this year, I want to bring on a clinician. I'm vacillating between being a 1099 or a W-2 because I know that there's, prior being both of them in past life. I understand the nuances, but also understand some of the trappings that could come with hiring the 1099. So, I'm wading through those decisions, but I definitely want to branch out. And so something that, like, when I get six or seven consistent clients, it's something that I'm going to look at doing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, before I left my full-time job, I had 4 clinicians working for me in my quote side gig counseling practice. So, I mean, you can do it all sorts of different ways, and people are like, "Holy cow, how'd you manage that?" And because I had a full-time job already, I had to set up systems where I could be absent and still have the phone getting answered and people getting scheduled. And so it was really good that it really didn't matter what my caseload was. It was just like, let's fill up this office. I'm not going to fill it up because I'm 40 plus hours a week in my full-time job at the college. So it's interesting how sometimes the limitation of your hours forces you to create systems and value your time differently, to say, yeah, I'm going to hire an assistant before I think I even need one, but it's going to get people in to see these other clinicians. Well, what was helpful when you were first kind of getting going? So imagine there's people listening and they're in the startup phase of their solo practice. What was helpful? What was confusing? Take us through some of that journey.
So it was really, I knew a while ago that I wanted to do private practice and do my own thing, kind of hang my own shingle. And it's interesting because I just did like a Google search, and that 28 step checklist kind of came up, that the infographic
Mm.
that you created. And so I had that a while ago before I even knew you were doing podcasting. And then I started my doc journey at the end of 2018, and I had a professor that was mentioning a podcast, and then by listening to that, I heard you on the podcast, and then I started following you, and I started following you more than another podcast. And so it was a lot of you just giving real good content free of charge to me, and working through. And I said, wow, there is no way that I can't and that I will not join Next Level Practice when the stars align. And I know for me, I had to force myself. I said, okay, I have a few things that I need to do. One, I need to go ahead and tell the owner of this practice that I'm not going to renew my contract, because it was set to renew automatically. And so I had to put that in place. And so that was already uncomfortable. And then it was I think it was last year when you did that level up week, and
Mhm.
then the doors to Next Level Practice open, and I joined, and I just never looked back. And even though I still had some time on my contract with my prior business partner, I guess if you want to call it that, when I was done with that, I was able to just kind of flow freely. And so, kind of getting all these systems that you talk about, having a good website and having good copy, and search engine optimization, and all of these things that I had never really thought about. I was like, I'm just going to tell people I'm here, and they're going to say, hey, beat down the door, right?
Yeah. So for you, what was the value, or what is the value of being in a community like Next Level Practice to help you save time, know what to do? Like, how did that speed up your progress?
Because it helped push me out of my comfort zone, right? So I'm a part of a small group, and it's beautiful for me because we are all in different areas of the world, or the United States, I should say. And so there's the threshold for kind of sharing goes down a little bit, like with the fear of sharing. And so we are constantly pulling each other, pushing each other. And one of the things that Dana had pushed me to do is, her, in addition to the other cohort members, they were like, you got to, one of my plans was to email 5 therapists, like on Psychology Today or Good Therapy. And one of the members was like, well, no, you should probably double that. And then Dana was like, yeah. And I was like, oh man, y'all don't know how introverted I am. This is gonna suck. But I did. And I actually have one right now that I'm scheduled to meet with. And so I was like, wow, okay. So getting pushed out of my comfort zone was really good, because I'm pretty good at talking myself out of doing stuff, even though I want to do it.
Hmm.
So Next Level Practice is amazing.
I mean, I think that's the value of just being around people that in some way or another are where you're at, but in other ways are ahead of you, that they just see things differently. They can push you. I mean, I think about how many times in What's Working, someone comes and says, I'm getting pretty full and I don't know if I should raise my rates. And then we talk about raising their rates and they just are like, there's no way. And then they raise it by $35 or $50. And then the next month they come back and they got 3 new clients at this new rate. And they're like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? It's just so exciting to have people around you that can push you to think differently in different ways.
And it's all positive, and I get so many jewels and gems from them. You know, and it's fun, and it's just going back to even what you were saying about me showing up and being, because I'm so introverted, I know the only way that I'm going to speak up is to force myself. And so it's really about me becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's even on being on this podcast. That's what that's about for me.
Now, you said that they gave you some gems and jewels. What are some of the most helpful things that either people gave you advice on or that you did early on that you're super thankful that you did right away?
Beginning to record content as a way of marketing, getting my name out, not just focusing on YouTube, but doing like Instagram, really getting a sense of where my ideal client is and beginning to market there. So, you know, producing YouTube content, but then having it filter out and into Instagram and then maybe to Facebook. But one of the other things, Joe, and this just came up in the last small group meeting, was the idea of creating a community myself, for just a networking community on like Facebook or something where, you know, we can all in the area in where I'm at in Maryland, where we can be a resource to each other, because there's a lot of competitiveness that I've noticed, and inside of this space, like there's not a need that we all can't work symbiotically to feel and address.
So yeah. I mean, so having those ideas to push you differently. When you think about adding your first clinicians to your practice, so we've kind of talked about where you've been and what was helpful then. What are you thinking in regards to like how you're going to work through those things? What your plan is to level up into a group practice? Because I think a big question a lot of solo practitioners have is like, when should I level up into like having a group practice? And for you, how are you making that decision as to when to start to get serious about adding more clinicians to your practice?
Well, it goes back to something that, I mean, you've said this many times, even on the podcast, when you would talk about people, when you would talk to people, or even during the Ask Joes, about being 60% full. And for me, that's like 6 clients, because right now I'm at a space where I only want to do between 12 and 16 sessions a week. And so having 6 clients that I'm consistently seeing, or if I, you know, I could have 35 people, but if I'm seeing 6 of them a week, then it becomes time for me to really begin to look at who to hire. And also understanding that I don't want to hire somebody just like me. That wouldn't work. I'm a big visionary, so I need someone that is a little more process and operations oriented. And so those are some of the things that I've been thinking. And that, again, it's something that I got from being a part of Next Level Practice. And so predictable success and the synergist, right? You know, like you sending out predictable success and me going through it and saying, okay, this is why I don't click with a lot of people. So
Yeah.
Understanding that about myself.
Yeah, so Predictable Success was one of the books that we sent out to people, and then brought, was it Les? Was that his first name?
Yes.
To as one of our experts to be able to have people pick their brains. I think that's when I had to miss that, because was that when I was hospitalized? I think it might have been, because I had to miss that for some reason.
Yes.
So I think Dana ran it, or maybe LaToya did. So yeah, that's awesome. And I think that just kind of talking to people who have added folks to their practice and to see like how they think through it, how do they not? And to me, it was I didn't even necessarily have the client flow coming in, but I had the space. And so
Okay.
it was like, hey, this guy Steve wants to be in there on Tuesdays. And what's Steve good at? He's good at toxic families, and he's good at addictions work. And that's not work that I was doing. And so it was amazing how as soon as I started adding clinicians, it was almost like people came to the website thinking that they wanted to work with me, but then they wanted to work with Steve or with Nicole or somebody else. And all of a sudden I have this group practice that's thriving outside of my, counseling work at the college. So, yeah, you never know how it's going to take off.
Yeah, it's for me, I'm enjoying it. I was just counting. I'm very, very new at this. I'm only 3 months in. But I do have, a couple clients that I'm seeing. I am getting my name out and becoming more comfortable with recording content and trusting myself enough to hang it and send it out and let people see it. Right. So all of that stuff is me getting outside of my comfort zone, something that I would not have done had I not been a part of Next Level Practice.
Well, I appreciate all the shout outs around that. The last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Wow. I had been mulling this over in my head a lot. There is a need that you feel, that you understand, knowing your niche, knowing who you serve, and being able to drill down into that will give you the confidence to speak, to record, to produce content, and being a part of a community where you are getting that support. You're getting pushed to take those uncomfortable actions and put yourself out there is very valuable. It's worth every penny. And so I would just say find a place. It could be Next Level Practice, it could be something else, but find someone that is doing what you want to do or has done it, and learn from them.
So awesome. And Brandon, if people want to follow your website, if they want to follow your work, where's the best way for them to connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram at EM Holistic Counseling. That's all one word. My website is EM Holistic Counseling. I'm on Facebook and YouTube under the same moniker. And yeah, so I'm getting set up to produce content so that I can record the video, so that I can release them on a regular basis and just kind of talk about things that I'm doing and initiatives that's going on with Empower Me Holistic Counseling.
That is amazing. Keep up the great work. And thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Joe.
I just love that Brandon is 3 months into this, and he's just dove in and got those systems going. He's meeting with his small groups and his accountability partner, coming to meetings that we're hosting, and really taking what he's learning and putting it into action. That's the thing that I see over and over as the difference between those that just listen to the podcast and those that listen and then take action. So whether it's people doing one-on-one consulting with me and we talk and then they go take action, or it's people in Next Level Practice or any of our communities, it's when you take that action on top of the learning. You can't just keep learning and never take the action. He did mention Next Level Practice, so our next cohort for that opens in March of 2023. That you can read all about over at practiceofthepractice.com/invite. But we have an amazing event, summit, virtual conference, call it whatever you want to call it, but we call it Level Up Week. And that's going to be March 20th through 23rd. And a number of things all align around that week. We're going to have over 20 webinars from every stage of practice, from starting a practice to when do you level up into a group practice, to how do you rock out a group practice, to then how do you level up into passive income and e-courses? That whole journey that many of us go on of starting a practice, growing a practice, leaving a practice, or having it be more automated. So we've got some amazing people coming. We've got people from the Speaker Lab talking about public speaking. We have a strong maybe from Dr. Julie Schwartz-Gottman. She has some grandkids stuff that might get in the way. So that's a big maybe. So that's always exciting to have Julie be involved. And we have a ton of just webinars with other partners, but also that we're going to be putting on on. All those details are going to be over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. And that's going to be a great place for you to sign up for whichever webinars look good. Some of them, if you're not starting a practice, say you have a group practice, you wouldn't obviously register for all the solo ones. So you can pick whichever webinars look really good to you for that week. Thank you so much for hanging out and letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.